What's the story, Morning Glory? What is up, Buttercup? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for another review of the Real Housewives of New Jersey, Season 12, Episode 5, Jersey Shore Showdown. So we start off with where we left off from the last episode, and that's when Teresa has stormed out of Jennifer's beach house because a producer had approached Teresa and told her that she had just gotten off the phone with Louis, and Louis was having second thoughts about coming to the party because he didn't want to be around people that were talking behind his back. So Teresa got upset about that, and because she wants her man to feel comfortable. And so she was telling the producer, well, if he doesn't feel comfortable coming here, I already told him he didn't have to show up. So she storms out of the home, and she storms out of the house completely upset, in a complete huff, because I don't know if she was upset because people were talking about Louis, or I don't know what her deal was, but she stormed out to go be with her man. So Jennifer was left alone, and she was like, okay, so I'm going to have to do this, host this party by myself, because this was Teresa's party that I just moved to Jennifer's home. So Jennifer tries to text Teresa like, hey, what's going on? Are you okay? No response from Teresa. So the show must go on. So people start arriving and they start trickling in. Everybody gets acquainted and acclimated. Everybody goes outside with their drinks. And so they're all sitting outside having their drinks. And then Melissa makes a comment about how her and Jennifer have come full circle with their relationship, because here she is sitting in Jennifer's beach house sharing drinks with her. And then they show us a flashback of a reunion a couple of years ago where Jennifer was telling Melissa that she was too self-absorbed to have another child because Melissa was considering expanding her family. And at the reunion, Jennifer tells her, well, you're too self-absorbed to have another baby. And then we see another flashback where Jennifer tells Melissa, your husband doesn't pay his debts, or he doesn't pay his employees. He's known for not paying his people. But here they are now, commiserating. So Jennifer tells Melissa, well, I never thought that you would have been that offended by the things that I said. Like, really, Jennifer? Okay, so moving on. Teresa and Louis, they're getting into the van. I guess they're on their way to the party. And as soon as they get into the van, Teresa notices that there's cameras in the van. And she tells Louis, kind of like under her breath, there's cameras in here. I guess for him to be on his best behavior and not to say anything incriminating. So as they're driving to the event, she's talking about Margaret, and she's completely blaming Margaret for the whole fiasco with the Louis video. I guess Margaret was the first one to bring it up on the show. I don't know, but I have no idea why she's so upset with Margaret about Margaret talking about this video. The video is out there. It's on the internet for the whole world to see. People are going to comment about it because Louis is associated with someone who is a public figure. So yeah, they're going to talk about it. I don't know what the big deal is. I don't understand why. First of all, it's not something that we see every day, but it was something that we all can understand. You know what I'm saying? He was in this camp with a whole bunch of other men, and it was a camp for them to be more in touch with their sensitive side, to be more open, more vulnerable, more honest with the women in their lives, to deal with past trauma, childhood pain, whatever. So it was like a therapeutic type of thing. So I don't understand why the people on this show, Margaret and everybody else, why they're like so shocked about this video. It wasn't like he was caught doing anything, crazy. He knew the camera was there. He was talking directly into the camera. So it wasn't like it was anything that he would have been ashamed of, or he was doing something that he thought nobody would ever know about. So I don't understand why this video is such a big deal, but it is, and here we are. So when they arrive at Jennifer's house, they all eat. Everyone has dinner first. And then after dinner, they're all sitting outside. And then Margaret says to Teresa, she says, Jennifer said that you left in a fit. And then Teresa completely denies it. Like, you were on camera storming out of this woman's house, cussing out the producer, but it didn't happen. Okay. So Jennifer remains mum. I mean, I would have thought Jennifer would have stood up and said, yeah, Teresa did leave and she was kind of upset. But no, Jennifer remained mum. So then Teresa says, well, does anyone have anything else to say to me? And she's constantly like, do you have anything else to say to me? Does anyone have anything else to say to me? And at first everyone's quiet because they're not understanding exactly where this is going. But then Margaret stands up, and so she brings up the whole Louis video thing. She brings up the whole Louis video. And she was like, we just want some clarification on it. And then as Louis is trying to explain himself. And I'm thinking this is a great opportunity for him to give his side of the story, for him to defend himself. But Teresa won't even let him speak. She was constantly talking over him, telling him to be quiet, telling him you don't have to explain yourself to these people. You don't have to answer these people's questions. And I'm like, let the man talk. He wants to give his side. So what do you want, Teresa? You want people just to run away with the rumors? You just want the rumor mill to take over the whole narrative? Let him talk and let him give his side of the story. It got so bad with her not allowing him to speak that this man actually had to physically stand up and say, I'm going to have to leave. I'm going to have to threaten to leave for her to learn. I guess for her to learn to be quiet or something. I don't know. But he was so frustrated with Teresa not letting him talk. And so she wasn't willing to let him talk, and then Teresa gets super defensive, and then she takes a jab at Margaret's infidelity. She was like, I wasn't asking you questions, when you were talking about how you were cheating on your husband, I wasn't asking you questions. And so then Louis is still trying to explain himself, but whatever. And so then Louis tells Margaret, well, you on your best day wouldn't intimidate me. And I'm like, what? Where's that coming from? Why are you telling Margaret that? And you know what? I think Joe, Margaret's husband Joe, should have been like, what the hell do you mean by that? What the hell are you talking about? Because that was just crazy that he would have said, because I never have seen Margaret as someone who was trying to intimidate Louis. But he was like, well, you on your best day couldn't intimidate me. She's just asking you a question about a damn video that you did. So then Louis threatens, okay, so he finally explains himself and he's like, yeah, it was a warrior camp. It was about men revisiting, past trauma in their lives, learning how to be vulnerable to the women in their lives. And it was a way for him to figure out or to learn how to let the woman that he was dating at the time that he did not want to commit to marriage to her. He didn't want to marry her. And he even said that she was a bad woman. I'm like, wow. But anyways, it was just, he explained it as, it was a warrior camp, learning how to communicate, whatever, be better men. And I needed to find a way to tell this woman that I was with that, to learn the skills to be open and honest and let her know that I really wasn't, thinking about marrying her. Which was crazy because in Jackie's confessional, she was saying that, she was like, well, was he talking about the same video that we were talking about? Because in the video that we saw, he wasn't trying to avoid marriage. He actually proposed to that woman in that video. He asked that woman to marry him. So what video is he talking about trying to avoid marriage? So Louis says that a disgruntled ex had released the video. Could it be the woman that you were, stringing along, the one that you said you were going to marry her and but maybe you didn't end up marrying her? Could it have been her? But it said it was an ex that had released a video, and Teresa says that she doesn't want people gossiping about her and Louis. She's like, from here on out, I don't want nobody gossiping about us anymore. Okay, Teresa, you're on a reality TV show, and the whole purpose of these reality TV shows is to gossip and to talk about each other behind each other's back. So it's going to happen regardless. If you don't like it, exit stage left, get off the show. So Joe Gorga says, okay, you don't want people to gossip about you and your boyfriend, but what about your BFF over there, Jennifer? She was gossiping about me and my family and calling us crooked and calling me a crook. And what have you to say about that, Teresa? So Joe says that Melissa's comments in the confessional, he says that the comments that she made about him, the comments that Jennifer made about him, cost him a business deal, because she was trying to say that he was untrustworthy, and it cost him a business deal. So Margaret and Jennifer, they get into it all over again about the whole, Nabil's infidelity and Margaret's infidelity. And Jennifer was trying to explain to Margaret, and I agree with Margaret about this, that the issue that she had with Margaret was that she was saying Margaret had revealed something that was not supposed to be made public. So that was Jennifer and Nabil's story to tell, if they wanted that on camera or not. Margaret should not have done that. And I understand Margaret's frustration with Jennifer, how Jennifer was constantly, insulting her about the stuff that she did in her past, about her cheating on her own husband. And Jennifer was just dragging her through the mud the whole entire season. And I understand her frustration, but Jennifer was right when she said, I was only commenting on the stuff that you yourself have put out there. You were the one talking about all your infidelities and all the things that you've done. I was only commenting on something that you had already put out there. What you did was you took something that was private and you made it public without our consent. So I agree with Jennifer on that part. So okay, so they're like going back and forth, rehashing all of that stuff all over again. And okay, and so then the show was then Jennifer also said something about how, well, at least I don't go around digging up information on people. And then they show a flashback of her talking to Frank Catania, trying to get the lowdown on Evan and his alleged mistress. So you very much do go around digging up information on people, Jennifer. And then at some point, Jennifer called Joe Gorga a little bitch girl. She said something like, you're a little bitch girl over there because you're always trying to get into women's business. And I don't really subscribe to that whole thing about men cannot comment on women's business, because if you're going to mention that man or his loved ones, he has every right to say something about it. Okay. So miss me with that whole thing about men can't comment on women's business, because women are all for, equality and being equal and all of that. But then when y'all gossip, you want the men to stay out of it. No, I don't agree with that. If you're talking about that man or you're talking about his family or his people, he has every right to get into women's business and set you straight. So then Melissa, when Jennifer made that comment about Joe being a bitch girl, Melissa stood up and she wasn't going to let that fly. So she stands up and she walks up to Jennifer ready to confront her. And so when she approaches Jennifer, they're yelling at each other, cussing each other out face to face. And then at some point, Jennifer had grabbed, I think, Melissa's hand or something. Somehow Jennifer ended up touching Melissa. And so when that happened, hands are flying everywhere. So then they have to separate the two women. Joe Gorga, he tried to separate his wife from the whole situation. And while this is going on, where is Nabil? Nabil is out in the background somewhere by himself, drinking his drink, just watching his wife almost getting her butt handed to her by Melissa Gorga, doing absolutely nothing. Nada. Nilch. Okay? He's just sitting there watching as his wife almost got into this fight with this other woman. I mean, he didn't do anything. I was like, Lord have mercy. Nabil. Even Joe Gorga stood up and tried to remove Melissa out of the situation. But Nabil was just in the background, far away in the corner, drinking his drink, watching this melee go down. So then Jackie says, well, I'm done with you, Jennifer. I'm done. And so then Jennifer was like, well, who really cares? Because you were a fake friend anyway. Now, Jennifer starts kicking everybody out. She's telling everybody, get the F out of my house, get the F out of my house. Everybody's gone. So when everybody leaves, it's only Dolores and Teresa that remained. And then Nabil, he quietly exits. He leaves. And I'm like, okay, what's happening here? I thought he was going to like leave, but he left to go, he went back inside the house. And I thought he was going to go up to his room and disappear again into his bedroom. But he went into the kitchen, I guess, whoever was in the kitchen to talk to them. But he didn't even come to check on his wife. He didn't even come down just to show support and sit next to her. Nothing. He took off. So Melissa calls out Teresa, so when they left, when Melissa and Margaret and Jackie and their husbands, when they all left, and Tiki and Tracy, they all got into the van, and in the van, Melissa called out Teresa for not standing up for her own brother when Jennifer insulted him. And so then we flash back to Jennifer's beach house again, and Teresa is telling Jennifer, look, I really want you to make up with Melissa. I want y'all to make nice. And Jennifer tells Teresa, well, if I do that, it's only going to be because I'm doing it for you. And I'm like, no, you do it because it's really like the right thing to do, because you insulted her husband. Okay. So the next day, everybody was recalling about what happened the night before. Jennifer confronts her husband, Bill, in the kitchen, and she tells her husband, that was embarrassing because you weren't even there for me last night. You ended up just walking away and leaving, and now people are going to think that, me and you are having some kind of like personal issue with each other because you wouldn't even defend me, or you weren't there for me at all. You just disappeared on me. Girl, I don't remember what Nabil said to that. And then Margaret, she's telling her husband Joe that Louis completely contradicted himself when he was talking about the video, because he told them that he was trying to break up with the girl, but in the video he was actually proposing to the girl. So like, what's up with that? And then Tracy Barbara, she tells her husband Tiki that the way Louis talked to Teresa was just really uncalled for. When he stood up and said, am I going to have to leave just for her to learn? Kind of like, talking to her all condescending like she's a child. But Teresa likes that. She likes men who talk to her like she's a child, because Joe Judas was constantly reprimanding her like she was a little girl. So now we're at the pink party. Now, before Teresa arrives, we have all the other women. They're all sitting at the table talking, and they're talking about what happened after they all left, because Dolores was the only one that remained when everybody else left. And so they were asking Dolores, so how was Jennifer when we left? And Dolores was like, well, she was obviously upset because Melissa was trying to fight her. And so Dolores says that, Jennifer had every right to stand up to Melissa, because Melissa was approaching her like she was going to hit her. And so then Jackie was like, but you don't have your right. You don't have, you can't put your hands on anyone. You don't have the right to put your hands on anyone else. And then Dolores looked at Jackie like, what? She goes, but Jackie, you had empathy for her a week ago. You were defending her. You were her new BFF. You were her ride or die just a week ago. And now you're talking about how she didn't have the right to put her hands on someone who was approaching her in an aggressive manner. And so Jackie goes, well, that just shows you how much I can let go of stuff. And I just wanted to be there for her as a mother. She said, I wanted to be there for her as a mother. Why, Jackie? Why did you use the word mother? Why didn't you just say, I wanted to be there for her as a friend or something like that? Why did you say mother? Jennifer has a mother. And y'all are the same age. And she doesn't need another parent. You could have said, I was just trying to be there for her as a friend. But it was really weird and odd that you said, I was just trying to be there for her as a mother. And so now Jackie's done with Jennifer. And I was like, okay, but Jackie, you even went as far as to ruin the relationship between Dolores and Jennifer by throwing Dolores under the bus and telling Jennifer that Dolores was a fake friend. But here you are, in a hot minute, you dropped Jennifer as your friend. So who's really being the fake friend? I mean, I thought you were like, we're going to, be ride or dies until the day we die. But now you're like, oh, she's disgusting and I can't stand her. Okay, so Jackie says to Dolores, when Dolores called her out for being a fake friend, Jackie tries to retaliate at Dolores and say, well, you're the one who said that her husband was, philandering around, and you didn't use language that was so complimentary. You said something really foul and vulgar. And no, I'm sorry. Jackie tells Dolores, well, you're the one who told Jennifer what I said about Bill. That he was out there, sticking his stuff everywhere. And then Jackie said, well, you don't understand, Dolores. You took it completely out of context. I was actually trying to defend Jennifer when I said that, because Jennifer was going around shouldering the guilt and the shame of what her husband did, when he should have just been responsible and, accepted accountability on his own. But there she was, like his press secretary, trying to clean up his image, when she didn't even have to do that, because he was the one that messed up, and it wasn't her responsibility, to fix his image in front of everybody. So you completely took it out of context, Dolores. And Dolores was like, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. You said what you said, and you meant it the way you meant it. You wanted to be really ugly and vulgar, and that's how it came across. So Dolores wants to act like she doesn't get it, but I know that Dolores gets it. So in the kitchen, we have Teresa and Louis, and then we have Joe, and Tracy Barbara's in there, and then Melissa shows up at some point. So Joe tells Teresa that I don't understand how you can hang out with someone like Jennifer. That woman has an evil streak in her, And then Teresa says, well, I don't understand how you can hang out with Margaret. And then Joe was like, but what the hell has Margaret done? And I guess Teresa meant Margaret was not a good person, because Margaret, is constantly talking about Louis' video and bringing up Louis' video. I don't know. And of course, they also have that whole history with Danielle Straub. So, there's a history between Teresa and Margaret, but I don't think Margaret is like being purposely vicious or she's trying to bring Teresa down in any kind of way. So, but Jennifer is being vicious and she's being horrible. And it really looks like Jennifer is like being the mouthpiece for Teresa. The things that Teresa cannot say or do, I feel like maybe Jennifer steps in and does it for her because Jennifer, for whatever reason, has this need to be Teresa's friend and impress Teresa and do Teresa's dirty work for her. So Joe was like, well, of course I'm going to hang out with Margaret because what has she ever done to you or to anybody else? So she only talked about the damn video and everybody was already talking about that. And that's already out on the internet. And then I think Teresa is just really embarrassed about being with a man who would do a video like that. That kind of comes off as weird, maybe. I don't know. So then Joe says, well, Teresa should have, he tells his sister, you should have gotten on Jennifer for calling me a crook online. And then Melissa goes, yeah. And she also called your brother a bitch girl or a bitch boy, whatever she said. And then Tracy was like, Teresa, you really should have stood up for your brother against Jennifer because what she said was really uncalled for. And you should have been there for your family. And then Teresa was like, you know, what's the big deal about calling him a bitch girl? You know, she was like she was minimizing that whole comment. And Tracy Barber was like, well, what if someone said that about Louis? What if they called Louis that? And then Teresa, you know, she's trying to be real smart. And she was like, well, I wouldn't mind because he'd be my bitch girl. Girl, you know you would cut someone's throat if they came out for Louis. Because look how you're acting now with this stupid video. How you're going so hard for him and, you know, willing to sever relationships because people are talking about this dumb video of his. So Teresa in her confessional, you know, after Tracy Barber told her, you know, you need to stick up for your family. Teresa in her confessional, she says, well, you know what? My brother Melissa, they need to stop that woman, referring to Tracy, and put her in check for running her mouth. I guess she didn't like the things that Tracy had to say because Tracy was making complete sense. You need to stand up for your family because Joe Gorga, Melissa Gorga, they have done nothing to bring you down, okay? Joe in his confessional says, I have defended my sister to the ends of the earth and back. I've been there for my sister and her family. He tried to reconcile with Joe Giudice so many times. He's always when Joe Giudice went to prison, who stepped up to the plate? Her brother. You know, her brother has always been there for her. Their relationship has been very, 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 very rocky, but her brother has always been there for her. So you're going to let this woman, Jennifer, come in between you and your brother? I mean, you can't even, all she had to do when Jennifer made that comment and called him a bitch girl, all she had to do was just tap that woman on the shoulder and say, wait a minute, girl, can you relax a little bit? This is still my brother. Okay, can you just stop with the nasty comments, stop with the insults. This is still my brother. And the only thing that I can think of for Jennifer to feel that comfortable to say that to Joe Gorga, in front of Melissa like that, in front of Teresa like that, Teresa probably talks like that to Jennifer. She probably refers to her family in all kinds of derogatory names. And that's why Jennifer felt comfortable sitting right there next to Teresa, calling her brother a bitch girl and he needs to stay out of women's business. So I'm pretty sure Jennifer felt comfortable calling him that. And I was like, you know, I can call him that. And Teresa won't do a damn thing about it because maybe Teresa has called her brother that. And Teresa, girl, you are so foul. You are so incredibly foul. And then she runs off. She runs out of the kitchen crying, saying, I just don't want to fight with my family. Then stick up for your family. Then you wouldn't have to fight with them. You know, be there for your family once in a while. And that's where the episode ended. So, and then the friendship between Teresa and Jennifer, like I questioned that as well. Like, how real is that? But anyway, whatever. If she likes it, we love it. Thank you so much for watching my review. And if you made it this far, I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. Thank you so much. Go ahead and rate this video. Thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever makes you happy. And if you want to drop a line to let me know that you stopped by, thank you so much. And I will definitely talk to you later.